Let's see if we can bump that up a little. All right, let's try that again. A little bit higher. I think that's too high. That's too low. That's probably ideal. Okay, perfect, done. Hey, Grace. Hey, Hoops. Hey, Kristen. So, is this going to get REPORTED'd? Like, it's kind of crazy that you're allowed to do this behind the presidential podium, but me putting a photo of it on TikTok could get me in trouble. That doesn't make much sense to me at all. That seems counterintuitive. Hey, El, what's going on? So I do have another one where it doesn't have the bottom image. What do you guys think? I just feel like this image gets across the point. Right? Like, I feel like this is the image that is required. Hey, Margo. And so I'm a little bit torn. Hey, Soph. As to what to do. Because I feel like the bottom image is like it's from a film. How can I get in trouble for the film? And I don't know. I feel like I can get away with this. But why do I feel like some Trumpers will come in here and be like, my feelings are hurt. I don't like facts, so I'm just going to REPORTU. Hey to everyone joining. It's just a little frustrating. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's kind of crazy. Oh, I just realized. I totally forgot for a moment that I'm like really old. And I guess there's a lot of people who don't actually know American History X. Shoot, I guess that movie is 20 years old. God damn, I'm old. It's actually probably at least 20 years old now that I'm thinking about it. So I imagine a lot of people probably don't know the film reference. Can someone check? Because I think it's more than 20. I want to say this is like 1998. Can someone check? Yeah, I'm thinking of maybe 25 years old. I was thinking it's got to be like the mid 2000s, but no. 1998? God damn, I don't know how I don't remember a person I debated yesterday. Can't tell you a person I debated yesterday. But give me a film and I'm usually able to tell you the year. It's just weird how like certain things pop into your head. This is 25 years old. So wait, when I was a child, that would have been like a film from the 1960s. Jesus Christ. Yeah, why would anyone know this film? I mean, I feel like the shaved head kind of gets the message across regardless. Like, I feel like that's enough. Yeah, Bud Benter beats American History X. I guess it's not really also really known as like a classic. And so I could very much understand if people don't watch the film and it's not like widely talked about. My question is if he was advised to do this or he planned it himself. I don't know. You or two or tree, Marley? Shut the fuck up. Why do you have to ruin you for me, Marley? God damn it. So, did he plan it himself? I don't think he's that good an actor, to be honest. And it did seem, I don't know, kind of impromptu. But then again, the fact that he had like that plausible deniability thing that he said immediately afterwards, where he was like, my heart goes out to you. That, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't like. I'm a little bit confused as to like what is individual disgusting behavior versus what is like conspiracy or what is multiple people. You're gonna block who? All right, Wasabi, let me check what you're. What am I not? What am I missing about that person? I'm not really guessing it. Second time he did it, he didn't do the hand over the heart gesture. Oh, I thought he did. I mean, I have the video. I had it ready. Did you see his comment? No, I did not. But Wasabi, you're a mod. So if you think it's appropriate, just make sure you think it's appropriate. Make sure that it's not like something to correct. Make sure it's not something to. And don't forget, like, don't cut out all the opposition. And make sure to request them to join first. But no, I didn't see the comment. So I don't know. I feel like I'm really good at reading people and stuff. And I really feel ignorant when it comes to this kind of thing. Like, I feel really ignorant in terms of, like, is this Elon Musk being Elon Musk? Is this Elon Musk talking to Miller? Is this Elon Musk talking to Trump? Like, I really am ignorant in regard to that kind of thing. And I don't know why. I'm so blind to that kind of thing. I'm not really good at being able to like make pattern recognition between individuals, if that makes sense. I do, if I was to like put money on it, I would guess that this was impromptu, but that's just a guess. I really am ignorant in terms of like how conspiracies work, how people like, I don't know, I just feel really dumb, frankly. I feel like if I was allowed to like look for clues and stuff, it would be a different story. But when I'm looking at it from afar, I would be really hard to be able to figure it out. Why you think he wants to spread his white man seed everywhere? I think you know he is. I think this needs to be taken at face value. Yeah, we had someone in my server who, to his credit, despite all the stabby people in my server, he didn't defend it. He made an excuse for it. He said it was a Roman. He said it could have been a Roman salute. And when asked whether or not he thought it was a Roman salute, he said he thought it would be more likely it was a Roman salute, which I think is really kind of silly. I will say that I have since like talked to him both before I had the call yesterday, where I informed you all of what happened when I talked to him. But even after that, I sent him a video because I found this great video where basically someone was saying that, what do you think that is? Shows the video. What do you think that is? And I sent him this video where the top comment said Roman salute. But then when I clicked through the top comment, the third video he had reposted was saying how black people are dumb. And once I sent that to the guy in the server who had tried to, explain it away, he was like, holy shit. He really understood what he did wrong. He was very understanding of why he was removed away from the associated people within the server. Like, he did understand it. He was sad to be removed, but he was very understanding as to why he would be removed. And he was appreciative that we were sort of direct with him and told him exactly where it is we stood. And he appreciated me not just like cutting him, but like explaining to him what the issue was. And I think honestly, like, I don't think he was intentionally defending this. I really don't. I think that personally, in my opinion, I think it really was his autism that he was getting hyper focused on this idea of other options and stuff. I don't think it was anything else, in my opinion. But please, anyone affluent in internet culture will know this is tandem with his numerous other dog whistles. Yeah, Hey, what's up, Black Hammer? Hey, what's up, Black Hammer?
Yo, man, shit, I've been seeing this thing all over Twitter. It is insane.
Oh, so it's not been blocked out on Twitter. I thought it may be.
No, it's not. Everyone's like showing comparisons with like other Nazis, street Nazis doing this exact same thing.
Let's say schmatzi just in case. Yeah.
Schmatzis, like literal schmatzis on the street, put their hand on their chest and then do this the exact same salute that Elon is doing.
Yeah, I
Bro,
mean the go
yeah,
ahead.
but yeah, the cope I have seen is insane. There's this one dude arguing with another dude on the comments trying to gaslight him that it's some sort of like Roman salute, and then the next thing I hear is that Elon Musk is stimming. I'm like, what form of autism causes somebody to do that? Like I'm like
Exactly.
that is a lie.
I mean,
Like
this is definitely not stimming.
yeah, like I'm sorry, bro, but these dudes using that argument are the same ones who would have mistake people with autism with being demons or some shit back in the day.
I feel somewhat bad because I am a try to give good faith to people sort of person. So I actually ordinarily do try to see innocent explanations and stuff. So I feel bad for like some people who are just predisposed towards trying to see the good in people because they're not people who are just predisposed towards trying to see the good in people because they're not intentionally being evil. They're not intentionally being disrespectful. They think they're doing good. They think that they're just sort of like creating space for someone to have made a mistake. But ultimately, they're just creating they're creating cover for someone doing dog whistle shit. And so, like, I do feel bad that there are probably some people out there kind of defending this or giving alternative explanations simply because they want to hope that everyone is a good person, not because they really want to excuse racism, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but what you said before about the one dude who you were trying to explain they didn't dog whistle by showing the fact that the same dude trying to explain there was a Roman salute also said that bullshit about black people. It was the exact same thing. Like the main accounts I see defending this shit are little just like schmatzy accounts, all writers, all that shit saying that damn thing.
Oh, well, just to be clear, the person who was in the server who we had to remove was actually a black man.
Yeah, that's disappointing. I don't know how he don't know that shit. Goddamn.
Well, I wonder if where he's from plays a role. So he's from Europe originally. I can't remember where. I want to say Denmark or something.
He's from Europe.
And sorry,
He's from Europe.
yeah, he's from Europe originally, and he lives in England. Spent a lot of time in England.
Yeah, that's one.
And
I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's one of the weird things for me. I don't know what it is about black people in Europe, but it seems like they don't know this shit for some reason.
I think, look, I think from living in Europe and living in America, it's hard to say like where racism, like you don't want to say where it's worse because that's suggesting it's better somewhere, but like it feels a lot worse in America. And so I feel as though black people in America, in my experience, are a lot more aware of racism and are a lot more aware of dog whistles, a lot more aware of how it is people try to put other people down subtly than black people from other cultures where racism is not as prevalent. And that's not to say there's not racism in Europe. That's not to say there's not racism in the UK, but it seems insidious. It seems to be like a different level in America than most European countries that I've been to, which is crazy.
I'm from France, unfortunately, but I feel like the way racism operates in Europe is much more insidious. So they have been able to really cover it with the excuse of we don't see color, color blindness culture, especially France. That's what I know most, but I feel like that's very common in Europe as a whole. And it's not that it's not there, it's that it's been covered so well that we don't like we take it as the norm. Like a lot of I've noticed a lot of black people in France will not be aware of the amount of racism that they face because there's the excuse of, oh no, we're all French under the French flag. especially like in the overseas territories of France, they consider themselves French, but the none of the rights that they or none of the quality of life that they have is resembling anything that's in,
Well,
France.
have you spent any time in America?
Yeah, I'm in the US right now. I've been in the US for like 7 years.
Okay, no, that's just crazy you have that take. Like in my opinion, racism is more overt in France than in Europe. Like when I like in Europe, I would not be. I've never heard in America a white person use the N word in person. I've never heard that, right? In Europe, I have. In Europe, I've heard slurs being used. I
Yeah.
don't hear that in America. In Europe, I'll hear someone very casually say, I don't want to have a black doctor, or I don't want to have a black taximan. And I don't hear people saying that out loud in America. That doesn't mean they don't. I just think that I don't know. I feel like being a racist in Europe is not like necessarily socially condemned.
Yeah, I think
Whereas like in America, there's a I don't know.
yeah, I think a lot of the things also is because like I feel like there's also it's a mix of racism and xenophobia in Europe. And I feel like the racism, yes, there are some people that are very overt about it, especially if you go to certain places, it's worse. But I feel like they're also putting, at least in France, from what I know from having been born in France, they really focus and hone into the fact that, oh, we don't want, immigrant people, but a lot of the immigrants are black, right? So that they kind of use the card of they're not from here, as in like they're not citizens of France, rather than
Yeah.
purely black. So they kind of cover it with xenophobia, which is still not good. But it's like there is this layer of, because of the people that immigrate to France are mostly black and brown people. They kind of use that, like it's the racism.
Xenophobia is used as a cover for
Yeah,
racism. Yeah, no,
exactly.
I definitely agree with that. I
Yeah,
definitely
so I
agree with that.
think I think it's like it's just convenient for Europeans to have, the amount of people that immigrate there being black and brown. It's convenient for them because they can use that excuse rather than saying, yeah, we don't like black people, like straight up, is my experience in France.
Yeah, got it. Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, we did hear about the ADL's tweet about the salute, which is crazy. What's up, J-Will?
Yeah, how's it going? I wanted to come up here. I wanted to come up and play my racism is bigger than your racism too. No, I'm just kidding. No, but excuse me. You just got to remember, America's such a big place that if you're in the South, people say some crazy shit in America, whereas they may not say that in Chicago, or they may say that.
Hard
Like I
agree
live in
with that.
Kansas
Yeah.
City. Um, in Kansas City, people might not say something that if I go 30 minutes west of Kansas City, where people may, have their big boy pants on. So it's just, I mean, I don't know if we can really compare Europe to America or whatever. But I have one thing I would say though is it seems like throughout like the last century or so, it seems like Black Americans have always wanted to go to Europe. And it seems like people have kind of flourished in Europe when you think of like, some of the great minds and great poets and things like that. It seems like the diaspora was kind of leading towards countries like France. And I mean, Luna, you said you have that experience there. I don't know if just like glorifying a few people.
Um,
Um,
I would say that so I don't know if it's still as much today, but there was a point in time where anything related to America like was like wow,
Yeah.
So I don't know if like because I'm thinking, for example, James Baldwin is one of the people that I thought about when you said that that he moved to Europe, he moved to France, I think specifically. And I think it was a matter of, oh, they're American, like, oh my God, the American dream, like that image of America that we used to have in France. I don't know if it's still the same, but I feel like it's a
oh,
component of that. But when you're a black person born, like, because I was born and raised, I grew up in France.
mhm.
you get to see the level of microaggression that there are. Macroaggression, depending on where you go. If you go to the south, there's more macroaggression, but where I'm from, like northwest, and it's more microaggressions. So you see it towards black people, and especially towards black people that are immigrants. So I think there's this component, just like in the U.S. When they mention immigrants, they're very specific about people from South America, etc. But
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
that immigrate that are from, I mean, Canada or like South Africa, just saying, they're just gonna that they don't consider them like the bad immigrants. So I feel like that's kind of a case of that
If
with,
I,
Got it.
yeah.
if I can ask a question, only to follow up on what Jay Will said, because you're right. I'm thinking from a New York standpoint.
Mm.
And arguably, I'd like to think New York is one of the better places than other places when it regards to racism. But I think what I was more so talking about is if a white person in America does blackface, at least in my knowledge, that person would suffer social consequences. Whereas in Europe, if someone did blackface, yeah, it may get some social media, but that person won't be canceled. And so I'm
Mhm.
wondering now, is racism different or is cancel culture different?
Um, I think a little bit of both. So with the thing with yeah, blackface and that, the first thing I thought was Belgium.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah. What's his name? Pete.
yeah. So cancel culture, I think, has been kind of quote unquote useful in France because it has allowed people to call out racist stuff like this more. But before that, I think it's still not to the level that is needed to really acknowledge racism in Europe. But yeah, I think I don't know, they hide a lot behind like just color blindness. I feel like that's the bigger thing in France. It's like the color, or France and Europe is that color blindness attitude that they take. And
Yeah.
that's why I feel like they don't like, they're like, oh no, it's not about the color of the skin. It's just the like the character history, whatever. They're able to kind of hide behind the idea that we're all French under the like we're all Europeans. It doesn't matter where you're from, except like where you're from originally. And that's why if you go to France, you see a lot of, for example, white women that will have box braids, and nobody will bat an eye because it's like color
It's
blindness.
stuff like that, I mean, yeah.
But
Yes, yeah, and
but
I feel like it really is the color blindness attitude that
but
is allowing them to do these things because to them it's like it's not about the color, it's just like a hairstyle, like that's kind of, if it's like coded into, because I don't know if it's coded into, I know that in France they cannot take statistics on race, I'm pretty sure. Like it's forbidden, you can't do that. But like it's part of the system, it's within the system. So when you see individuals, they're going to take that colorblindness mindset into their daily lives, and so they're not going to realize, yeah, it's really bad. So I feel like colorblindness is the biggest thing in Europe.
well, people try that bullshit in America too. All the like, oh, I don't see color, and blah blah blah, and this and that, and why don't and they try this little switch of we're the ones. There's a lot of people in America that will come in here and say that we're the ones that are sowing the seeds of division
Yeah.
because we're having this conversation. So
Mhm.
I think that exists. But my question would be is do they have the history of blackface in Europe that we have of it in America? Like you all mentioned
Mhm,
kind of like there's
mhm.
something in I don't know anything about Belgium. I don't know anything about
Yeah,
blackface.
yeah, there's
But
just like
is it
this one character, I don't remember
Something
who.
Pete. Can someone look up,
Oh, something like that.
yeah, can someone look up Belgian blackface Pete?
Mhm.
Pete. He's got a name before the word Pete. I just always forget it.
Yeah. But like from my experience and having lived in the US for now a while, but being born in France, I think racism operates differently. Like it was very, because the thing is, the one thing to remember is that slavery and all that was for the US, for America, it was on the land, right? Like the most
Yeah.
overt, violent ways of slavery was on the land. But for Europe, it was always outside of Europe. It was
Right.
always like either in the Caribbean or it was on the African continent. It was on like in like some parts of Asia, like Vietnam, etc. It was always outside of Europe. So I feel like that consciousness is not as ingrained within Europe because people didn't really see it face to face as like a systematic thing. They only heard of it, but it was distant enough that they didn't have that consciousness of like race, racism, segregation, all that. Whereas in the US, it was on the soil. It was like everybody was like you couldn't avoid it. You had to see it. And I feel like that's one of the biggest thing that is different between Europe and the US is that they're like Europeans were able to put a distance with the institution of racism, slavery, etc. Whereas in the US, you had no choice.
Yeah, but I feel like that's what I'm talking about. Why I feel as though racism in America is much more entrenched is because it was because slavery was then replaced with Jim Crow, which then was replaced with arguably mass imprisonment. There were systemic political systems put in place to oppress Black people. And in
Right.
my experience in Europe, they didn't have that as much. And
Yeah.
so, like, you can argue in America that the police force and the idea of the police is largely structured as a means to police Black people specifically and put Black people in jail. You can make that as a credible argument in America. You can't really make that argument for Ireland. You can't make that
I
argument
feel
for
like
France.
Irish. I feel like what I'm hearing from Luna is that it's the exact same sentiment, and for the very few people that are there, it's kind of the same way. But in America, like Black people, we didn't leave after slavery, right? Whereas Luna's saying, okay, the Black people were never there, so it's not as in your face.
Yes. Yes.
There weren't the like blatant law, but it's a little bit more subtle there. I guess that's what I feel like I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Like it's because every operations like the plantations, the exploitations of people was done always outside of Europe, right? The extent to which it happened within Europe was like domestic, serve what they call servants.
You getting married at them plantations in America. Shit.
Yeah. And so the plantations were happening just outside of the continent of Europe. It was not happening within it. So like the people within Europe, they didn't see it every day, and then they were fed the idea of color blindness on top of that. So I think that's why it didn't like that consciousness, that racial consciousness didn't really hit like Europe as much because they were able to put a huge distance between them and the people that were enslaved, the people that were exploited, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas in the US and in Canada, and it was just you could it was there, and so they didn't feel the need to really like hide it. But in not hiding it, people were starting, to revolt and to stand their ground. Whereas in the US, in Europe, they didn't have that chance to really seeing it for what it was and thinking it's not okay because they were just pretending like it was not there. So that's kind of like the way I see it. And because it was so covert and like far away, that idea that, oh, I can be racist if I do box braids, or I can be racist if I say a certain slur, like it didn't really click in people's mind in Europe as much as it did in the US.
Yeah, but I do want to keep stressing that I don't disagree with what you're saying in
I
terms
have
of
a
the
question
covert
when you're
versus
done,
overt.
Irish.
Yeah, sure. More so what I'm stressing is that due to the nature of slavery in America, that led to a number of institutional
Yeah.
political systems that enshrined racism into the operation of society that you didn't have in a lot of European countries. So, for example, the idea of Black people having a separate education in America, that's not an experience you're going to find in a lot of European countries.
Right.
Whereas in America, that absolutely was a thing. The idea of separating neighborhoods by color,
Yeah.
that's a very American concept and very well enshrined. Governments working together to keep black people in one neighborhood and white people in a different neighborhood. That didn't happen in the UK.
Right.
It just didn't happen. And it's because all these things that happened in America, such as separate but equal education, black neighborhoods versus white neighborhoods, the imprisonment and the expansion of police, all of that was carryover and or replacement for slavery. And so because you didn't have black slavery on the same way in a place like the UK, you didn't have new institutions created to replicate what slavery had. And for that reason, in my opinion, like if you grew up in America, you're looking at your grandfather getting a separate but equal education. You're looking at your parents likely living in an all black neighborhood, which likely doesn't get the same economic and political sources that is required or is given to white families in and white neighborhoods, whereas in other European countries, it's not as well structured and hasn't been in place for 400 years. So,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. From my experience, that's a very big noticeable difference.
Yeah, and I think what I mean is that because it was not like it was not coded into institutions in Europe, I think that is the danger of it in Europe is that because there's no institutional systematic like anything written within like the fabrics of European society, they get to do it like it's there, but it's not there because you can't really see it overtly. I mean, you do like it's really strange because you do see it, but I think we do see it because we come from an American point of view, so we are able to recognize these things. But like if I use my own personal life, it wasn't until I stepped outside of Europe and I went to live in the US that I realized all the microaggression that I had gone throughout my life. Like it did not click until I really saw what it's like to see racism in action here. That I realized, oh, these little things that people would tell me about my hair, about like the way I smelled, stuff like that, or that I didn't realize that it was like racism light, you know? And also, I think it's also much more, at least in the case of France, because it does have like overseas territories, it's much more obvious the segregations that's happening when you look at the Caribbean islands that belong to France, Martinique and Guadeloupe. Like there is like like a very small population of white people that are in like in really like far removed area. They're so rich, they have everything that they need, and then you have everybody else, which are the black people. So it's much more obvious if you go to the overseas territories of France than if you go within France. But with that, I do have to go because I have class.
Yeah,
But
appreciate you joining, Lena.
yeah,
Nice to meet you, Luna. Nice to
All
meet
the
you.
best, Lena.
But when we talk about whether it's overt or covert, though, I think the fact that it's woven into the fabric of America so deeply ingrained in America, to me, that's what makes it so overt, as opposed to Europe, where it seems like it's the subtle, like she said, microaggressions and things like that. We have the microaggressions and the macroaggressions and everything in between here. I guess is why I think it's more overt here. But
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry, not to change the
yeah,
subjects, but I
sorry.
wanted to get your opinion on something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if this is like new or not to change the
Yeah,
subjects, but I
sorry.
wanted to get your opinion on something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if this is like new or if people have been talking about this. But the Constitution being removed from the White House website, is that like a new thing?
That's the new thing. The removal of the whitehouse.gov translated into Spanish is a new thing, and the removal of the reproductiverights.gov website. Those were three
Well, yeah, it's
changes
like
that
the
were done immediately.
Constitution. Like when you look up the Constitution on the White House website, like whitehouse.gov, it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, all I heard was that that was new, but like, there's a lot of bullshit that's going on. Like, people were saying, like, if you search in TikTok, for example, for like certain things about Trump,
Well,
that
yeah,
they
I
don't
knew
pop up
that.
and stuff. So I don't know if that is real or not. I do know the other two are real in terms of the website no longer being in Spanish and the reproductiverights.gov.com. I have heard what you're saying about the Constitution being gone, but like I don't can't tell you if that's actually true or not.
No, 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 it is. I looked.
Oh, it is. Okay.
So I was just wondering your like thoughts on that because that's fucking terrifying.
It
I
is
mean,
real. The thing about the searching, it's real.
Yeah, it's real. No, it's like I was asking your opinion on what that
I
means.
don't know. I look, I don't know what to say my thoughts are on it in the sense that like clearly Donald Trump does not value political norms. And clearly he may be sending a sign that he is his own boss and the Constitution is not. The fact that he is issuing executive orders that arguably are counter to the Constitution, this new birthright executive order, I would argue, like he can say it's an interpretation of the 14th Amendment, but it's very clearly against the clear words of the 14th Amendment that says if you're born in the U.S., you're a citizen. And he's now trying to rewrite it, saying if you're born in the U.S. to an undocumented immigrant and or someone who's here on a temporary visa, then you don't have it. And so he's clearly showing disdain towards the Constitution. And so it could be in theme with that. But like, I don't know why I feel so stupid talking about politics, but I really feel inept. Like I feel really good at being able to analyze someone one on one.
Yeah, but
I
I feel
can't
like
tell
it's
you
just because
larger
there's so
plays
much going
personally.
on.
Maybe I also just don't know what to put down to incompetence and ego versus coordination and effort. Do you
Right,
know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
even knowing everything that happened on January 6th, to the extent they were organized, they were, but it was a joke. Like it was pathetic. And so like I just have a hard time thinking of Donald Trump as a mastermind. And so I'm really having a hard time figuring out what is pre-planned and what is, what is just ego, what is him
Yeah.
just
I think
pissed off at something. It's so hard for me to figure it out.
my concern with that is it's going to be like re-uploaded, but like with very little differences that people might not notice, and it's just going to continue to do that.
Oh, that would be interested if that was the case.
Listen, I don't know what the heck is going on. Can somebody fill me in? Like,
In
can
terms
you
of what?
explain the background first? Because I keep seeing people say,
Yeah, at the inauguration, Elon Musk basically ended his speech by doing a Zig Heil to the audience in front of him. Then he turned around and he did the same thing to the audience behind him. Then he turned around and he faced the crowd again and he put his hand on his heart and he tried to bullshit it, in my opinion, by saying that my heart goes out to all of you. So he had plausible deniability to claim that it was him sending his heart out. But I think we all know your hand would be flipped the other way around if you were sending your heart out. And so people are just calling it out as a pretty overt nod to white supremacy.
Has anyone noted his involvement with like the AfD in Germany and how this could be?
Yeah, he's been given millions to the far right. We had this issue with, we just talked about it. Someone in our server was trying to explain this away by saying it's just a Roman salute. And I feel bad. We had to remove them because they've done this sort of a number of times where they play devil's advocate. And we had to educate them. They didn't know about Elon Musk's support of the far right groups in Germany. But like, I don't understand why people would think, this is like him acting covertly. Like he's a son of apartheid who's been going around making lots of white babies everywhere. Like this is not all that shocking.
Well, that's where it came from, is the Roman salute. So,
I guess that's what, for me, Irish, it's not at all shocking or
Yeah, not at
surprised. I'm
all.
not surprised by this. I'm not surprised by, I think Sarah was saying that they were, like, none of this is surprising to me, so I'm not too particularly alarmed at the moment. Um, are y'all? Is anybody else surprised by this? I mean, this is what I was expecting.
I feel impotent. I feel alarmed and I feel
It's a perfect
hopeless.
way to put it.
Like I just do. Like I see all the signs and I know that like the way this works is that people like Trump, people like Musk, it's all about boundary testing. January 6th was a boundary test. This is a boundary test. They keep pushing to see what they're plausibly able to get away from, so that we're now at a point where you can now do Zig Heil at a U.S. presidential inauguration, and people are still making excuses. Like, it's scary, but like we're sort of captive to the more stupid majority population, unfortunately.
I just want to correct something that's being said in the chat and was just said up here a moment ago. It's not a Roman salute. There is no connection to the Romans whatsoever. The only like connection to quote unquote Romans is a painting from the 1700s, which was 1500 years after the Roman Empire fell. And then it was popularized by a man by the name of Gabriel D'Annunzio, who was a nationalist and a Yahtzee, who believed in like the strengths of fascist Italy compared to the Great Roman Empire. There is no Roman anything to it. It is just fascism through and through. So anybody that says that, oh, it came from the Romans or anything like that, no, it didn't. It absolutely did not.
Yeah, and we hear the same kind of rhetoric about like the swastika, for
Exactly
example.
what I
I
was going to
mean,
say.
yeah, it can have, even if it had an origin otherwise, we know what it is now. We know what it's been. We know what the context is. And quite frankly, and I'm guessing Thickless feels the same, I'm very frustrated by people trying to explain this away with him being autistic. It makes me very angry.
Oh my
Yeah,
That
god.
no,
part's insane.
Irish, do you think that this guy is like the mastermind, the one that's
No,
like behind the
he's
whole
also an
thing?
idiot. No, he's also an idiot.
yeah, I can't say that my
So who do you
autism
think
has
it
ever
is
made me
then?
throw one of these up
I
in a
I think
crowd of
Stephen
people.
Miller is very organized. I think he's probably the biggest white supremacist in the circle for sure.
What about the Facebook guy?
Zuckerberg?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a bitch.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, I think.
he's just bending the knee.
Yeah, exactly. He'll do whatever is required to make money. I don't think it's
They're all
any.
very insecure. They're very
Yeah,
insecure men in their masculinity or whatever you want to call it. But
they're the definition of beta males. Like, that's the fucking irony. They're
yeah.
all little bitches. Every single one of them is a little bitch. Like, did you guys see Zuckerberg at the UFC fight? Like, he just looks so awkward and out of place, but he also looks like a child looking at the biggest WWF or WWE superstars.
Yeah.
Like, he just looks in awe of quote unquote real men. It's pathetic.
He does look out. Well, he looks out of place pretty much anywhere he is, though. Too. I mean, you can see. I know how to say. He's that nerdy kid
Yeah.
from school that thinks that he's in with the clique now or something. That he's in his 40s. So he does look awkward wherever he's at. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just that he looked awkward, he looked in awe. That's what was more disturbing to me. Was
That's
that
what the
like
awe and awkward is, duh.
that made me very disturbed. Like, he's what, 40? He's got to be 40 something at this point.
He's around my age.
Multi-billionaire, and he's looking at other men with envy. Like, he was looking at the other men like thinking, I wish I was as cool as you. And it's not just pathetic, it's dangerous. When you have these insecure men, they're just very, very easily manipulated, which is a little scary. Which is why, like, I suppose the good question to ask is, who is the mastermind? Who is the leader? And right now it is Trump. Like, I don't think Elon's leading Trump at all. I think, like, I know this is shocking, but I think that Trump is smarter than Elon. Like, I genuinely think Elon's a moron. I don't think Elon's smart at all.